Alright, I'm going to take you on a basic exercise design. Sometimes the best things to do when figuring out how to put together a design for a person would be knowing the basics. There's two basic forms of exercise. One is resistance training, that's like barbells, dumbbells, machine use, sometimes even body weight exercises. I'll get to that in a second. And the other is endurance training. That's typically running, cycling, swimming, triathlons, and those are the two basic forms. Today we'll just do basic body movement, and when you do resistance training, it's typically to either increase size or strength, improve your sports performance, increase your aerobic capacity exercise, or change around body composition. That's like fat sculpting or getting rid of waste, stuff like that. When you design an exercise routine with resistance, really there's other ways to do it, but the basic way is to use big muscle parts, exercise them, and then go down to smaller muscle parts. That's like chest, back, legs. Those are the biggest parts, and there's some basic movements like in power lifting or Olympic lifting. And then you do the smaller body parts like biceps, triceps, trapezius, calves, quads, hamstrings individually, and then abs. So just for the sake of making it easy to understand, we'll go through some basic, really strict exercises, movements, and then you can kind of play with it after you develop your own routine. When you lift weights, it's usually done where you get to something called a repetition maximum. So for most of my patients, I'll tell them when you lift with, say, 6 to 8 repetitions. That means you do a single maneuver or a single movement like bench press 6 to 8 times, so that we'll pick 6 today, but you use it so that the 6th time you push the weight up, you're kind of fatigued, and that's about it until you rest just for a couple seconds and go back to it. So that's a 6 max repetition. Usually you do about 6 repetitions, you take a little bit of a break, and then you do another set. 3 sets usually will be good enough. That'll be good enough to work the muscle, and all you're doing is trying to work the muscle, force a little bit of overload, and then give it a rest until the next time you exercise the body part. That's usually twice a week. About a 48-hour rest period between the body parts. That's typical. It's called a split, where you do, say, back on Monday, and then you do a get back again on Thursday. Everybody's a little different. Now with this advent of CrossFit, where they're using resistance exercises but putting them back to back with very little rest, some people will push the envelope with little rest, little downtime, and get back to the exercise routine again. That's kind of getting a cardiovascular fit routine out of a resistance exercise. So now I'm going between the two different types of endurance and resistance. It's confusing. But for the basic beginner, I think easy movements are best to learn in strict form first, doing, say, 3 sets per body part, and then about 6 repetitions per set. That's when you have an assistant show you exactly how to move properly with strict form, and then you can kind of play with it after that. As far as exercise and pre-workout, I don't believe that you have to have a lot of the pre-workout supplements and powders. Today it's early morning, didn't get much sleep last night, so I take in some form of caffeine. I think caffeine for that use is appropriate, and studies have shown with regards to caffeine use and exercise, it's appropriate to increase your area under the curve as far as benefits with power or routine. But when you start to get into like Red Bull, some of the pre-workouts with a little bit of androstenedione, I don't agree with those things. I think they're kind of dangerous and addictive, so you have to be careful about the sugars that you take in. As far as creatine, good to use creatine beforehand. There's ways to max on creatine when you cycle it with your exercise peak at 6 weeks, but for the beginner, not necessary. Protein afterward would be fine, but I'd rather have you invest money on a clean and green diet more so than a powder. Especially if you're eating the powder right afterward, then you're going to go eat crappy food. So this is a big lifestyle change, and the better you eat, the better the recovery. The better recovery, will usually give you more exercise and better gains faster. There's something called the TrRic effect, that when you warm up the heart and the lungs, the muscles perform better when you get to a movement. So there's either a stretching mat in your place, or you can do some jumping jacks or get on a treadmill. Those are the easiest things to do. 10 to 15 minutes is good enough for a warm-up. So first movement is bench press, and I like this thing called the Smith machine because it gives you an assist in case you don't have anybody to spot you. There are safety catches that you can set depending on where your end point is, and it goes up and down. So you just want the bench bar to fall right above your nipple line. Feet on the ground, and shoulders width apart. Exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. Some people keep a grip around. I keep an open grip. Doesn't really matter. I want to be able to do 6, where the 6 repetitions are hardest. That's pretty much it. After you master your form, then you can kind of use plyometrics and get a little fancy. You don't have to put your feet down, and you don't have to go so strict. That's how you do something called negatives. When you're really tired and you want to get extra repetition out, you push it up with cheating movements, and drop it down real slow. I'll do that now. I don't advise doing the cheating movements when you begin, but it's a bad form technique. But sometimes when you're doing a negative, when you're really tired, you kind of get it up there, then you slowly hold it down. Until you get to the bottom. Next is squatting for developing the lower extremities, glutes, legs, hands. So it's still a Smith machine. Get your shoulders underneath the bar, hands to support, unlock. Feet should be a little wider than hips width, and toes pointing in the same direction as knees. You never want to get your knees too far forward from your ankles, and you want to bend into it. Never go lower than 90 degrees at the knee joint. It's too low, too painful on the kneecaps. And just until you get to a point of fatigue. Lower extremity muscles are stronger, so you can go up to 8 repetitions here. This one is called this is a variety or variation called hack squat. You work more on quad than the other one. So this is lat pull downs. If you can't lift the wrong weight on a pull-up machine, then you do pull downs. You always have to set the knee rest so that your feet are straight, 90 degrees at the knees. Work with a weight you can do about 6 repetitions with. 2 ways to do it. Go lower the chin or behind the neck. Either way, when you put a bar down, it should be to a point where you feel this muscle working. So I just do alternate movements, but it has to be strict at first. So for this training, you just do it behind the neck. I think it's safer because when you do it at your last, and it's the last repetition, sometimes if you're really struggling to hold it up, you hit your chin. Variation is to go narrow grip or pull-up style. I'll do narrow grip, front pull downs, narrow grip up top, and pull down to chin. Sometimes when you do narrow grip, it's hard to pull behind. but you're working different muscle groups. Still doing latissimus burst to your back. You want to control the movements, you don't bang. The other variation is pull down. Sitting up straight, extending left arms, and then pulling down to chin. I like to hold and let go. Here you're working biceps as well. For that choice, I could only do 3 repetitions. That's too heavy. I want to be able to do 6 reps. So last thing is using dumbbells for smaller muscle groups, for individual muscle toning. Trapezius, deltoids, biceps, triceps, forearms, or these. So you can either be strict with this and lift up, say, for shoulders, or biceps, being really strict with movement, or triceps, or you can use cables. Cables, I like cables, gives you a little bit more resistance than dumbbells without the cambered maneuver or movement like a Nautilus machine. Biceps. Again, I like to have the body stripped and then concentrating on the movement to the body part. Or triceps. You can either switch this up and pull down, or I just bend forward. So different things with either barbells, dumbbells, or cables. So that is a very cursory introduction into resistance training. And I just did that because I'm used to working without a spotter. A spotter is somebody who helps you, especially if you're getting towards that last repetition. Remember, for the upper body, I like 6 repetitions, and that will be your maximum. That's when you know you're working out. And you got to play with the weight to figure out with the different movements what is good for you and how much weight to use. And you always progress. Again, the objective is to overload the muscle, not to the point of pain, but overload the muscle so it develops more strength, more muscle fibers, better recruitment next time, so you either become stronger or bigger, or change your body composition, or sometimes you can link that to a aerobic exercise routine with circuit training. Either way, that's the cursory intro. Sometimes you'll have to get more detailed exercise movements with personal trainers, exercise physiologists, even physical therapists. So you just have to keep safe, and you have to know how to utilize repetitions, sets, split routines, and advancing to the point of, I think, a 6-week peak or a summit, and then resetting the goals after that to the next summit. Eating properly is always important, getting sleep, and then not overtraining. A lot of amateur, or I should say a lot of novices that are starting a resistance program will use targeted exercises that they read about in magazines to take care of specific body parts. That's that changing body composition thing. And the typical I hear is that everybody does crunches and sit-ups and planks all day, but they don't see their abs or they don't see their six-pack come out. And the reason that happens is you actually have, everybody's got abdominal musculature, but unfortunately, because the depot fat, it's called, is the last to go when you're losing weight, and the last area to go is usually the abdomen, the butt, the thighs, and you won't be able to see your muscles developing, or you won't be able to see your six-pack, but it is there. And so it's not the fact that you're not doing, or you're doing the wrong exercises, it's just the fact that you're doing the right exercises, but that depot fat is very hard to get rid of. So you just have to continue. And using targeted exercises with resistance to get rid of body fat is not the right way to do it. You really have to decrease your caloric intake or restrict your intake without starving yourself and hitting the wall. You also have to continue with endurance exercises. So everybody kind of works in the routine we just did. We didn't do any abdomen or abdominal work. So Usually I say you can do that outside the gym. Crunches, sit-ups, core planks, and yoga. You continue with those as best as possible, but if you want to get rid of that depot fat, that little stubborn part that is not going away, then you add endurance exercises into your routine. That'll be running, cycling, swimming, or circuit training, or what's known of now as CrossFit. That will burn the total amount of calories and help you reduce that body fat or burn up the body fat faster than resistance exercises.